Do we have anybody online who gonna lead this call? Or are we just sitting and waiting?
Just as you said it, they joined.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
I can hear you.
Okay.
No, we can't hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, now we can.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, there was some. I think I was just using the wrong audio. Anyway, yeah. What I had said was let me check on Jeremy, and then he has just joined. But let's give him a few minutes, and then we can get started all together. And I think Stephen is out another. This is the last one that Stephen is out for, and then I think he's expecting to be back next week, if I recall the schedule. For what it's worth. So yeah, give me another.
Good morning.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, I was having audio issues.
Yeah, me too. So I don't know.
So get rolling.
Yeah, let's get rolling. Can you give me screen share so I can help with the agenda?
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
You should have it.
Okay. Okay. Jeremy, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, August 19th, 2025 SIG Multicluster meeting.
Yay. Okay. Nobody has looked at anything specifically for the scrub. Should I go through something like the list a little bit anyways, or is there anything people really wanted to bring up? We have gotten into a bit of a habit of pulling things appearing on the scrub at like topics, which I think is good, but also I don't know if that's the default state of the scrub. So I'm also kind of open to that of what the people here think. Otherwise, we can move on to the topic. Any opinions going once?
Yeah, if we weren't pulling anything in, then maybe let's go to the topic and see how much time it takes.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we can circle back at the end too if people want to. All right then. Arthur, you have the floor for proposal first designs about MCS cluster selection and traffic distribution.
Yeah. So maybe I would just actually sharing your screen is fine.
Yeah, you can share if you want, but I just clicked it anyways.
Well, I think it's fine. So I won't go over all the document, reading it, but I will just share a few points, highlights. So basically, in MSS, we don't have any kind of behavior baked in to do some prefer some clusters, prefer some zone. We don't even have the traffic distribution fields from the regular service API. So, well, this is kind of unfortunate, but it's also like a green field, which is kind of nice. Well, for making something, I guess. And yeah, there is some prior art in Cilium about that. We have some annotations. It's mainly, I think it's called service affinity, and we just can have two values, local and remote. So just say I want to prefer endpoint from the local cluster or anything from remote clusters, plural, where you don't even can specify which clusters or group of cluster you want. And there was like many users that asked for more. So probably not necessarily the thing to copy from, but it's there. And yeah, so about that, what I would like to build my proposal here, but we can discuss about that. I would basically want that we keep the traffic distribution field and all of that. And aside of that, we could have some things that pick some group of clusters, and both of them would not be mutually exclusive. So basically, you can prefer some clusters, and among of that, you can prefer an IZ with the traffic distribution or things like that. Yeah. So I made some like random proposal about how the API would like. And basically all of those proposals would probably build up on cluster properties. So essentially, yeah, selecting clusters from how their properties are defined, something like that. So the first one is kind of the same as the service API traffic distribution. So it's kind of a vague looking things where you just say prefer same cluster, location, country, whatever. The disadvantage of that is that we actually need to standardize all those cluster property. And I don't know how much it would make sense to do that. And it's, well, basically, we can just postpone everything until we have things like that. So maybe not the most convenient one, but it would follow the current service property. And we could also have super dynamic things baked into that, like prefer close cluster, which could be something where your implementation like ping every cluster or something like that, and took the shortest ones with some toleration, or some like static way to say, hey, I don't know, US to Europe clusters, it's 1000 points, and US East to US West, it's 100 or something, whatever. But it would be probably more implementation defined, but that might be more a future consideration than something we would do today. The second proposal is like opening a bit more wide and trying to take some inspiration from the super early cap about topology over routing, which was removed, but maybe it's more appropriate for our case, where you essentially put some keys of cluster properties, and you would select the same as your cluster. And if there is no endpoint, you get to the second one. If there is no endpoint, you get to the third, etc., etc. It might be a bit weird since the SIG network and service API has like drifted from that, but we are not exactly in the same case as them, I believe, because, well, we are not treating nodes, we are treating like clusters, and this is like a bigger group, but it's arguable probably. And the third proposal would maybe go even further than that and have some kind of, if you can scroll a bit, Laura. Yeah, yeah. So third proposal would be just to have a very wide like cluster selector. So like you could select anything, not necessarily some that have the same property as your current cluster. And we could imagine that we would have like some specific key, like same thing, to say I want to, well, select the same thing as before. So it's a bit wider, and we could have also multiple levels, basically an array of cluster selector, or even we could, if you scroll a bit, have some selector based on netball-ish things to widen up even more the possibilities. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. The rest of the document is how the algorithm would look like if you take into account traffic distribution and how you could implement that in implementations. I would propose like some annotation on endpoint slice to do that, and we could even imagine to implement that without proxy native support. But if someone wants to volunteer to work with SIG network to possibly implement that, it could also be an option. So yeah, that's the gist of it. There is a bit more details on the doc, although it's not like a cap format. Well, it's not a full cap. Designed to be a cap later on, but not right now. And I would also want to note that it shouldn't block MCS beta, so it's something long-term, medium long-term, that we could think of in the back of our mind, basically. So, yes, Jeremy.
I love it and agree that we should keep it, out of the beta blocking workflow, which would make sense anyway, since the API that we're basing it off of for service is in alpha. But yeah, I think we almost definitely want this.
Yay.
Yeah, I wanted to yeah, I think like the MCS was like, at least from design, was supposed to be able to extend like the behaviors of existing service. So I think, yeah, getting more closely aligned with this in terms of like what the service API does is definitely important. There was some stuff in the past about like the topology aware hints, which was like a derivative of topology aware routing that we like kind of got on the same page on, but like kind of researching in the background while you were talking, I think that also had some like scope reduction. So yeah, I am interested in us finding out the plans or link between this topology aware routing stuff and then the traffic policy distribution, because as you just said, they like seem to have drifted, if I understood what you were saying.
I think the most important doc to read is the traffic distribution cap, because it goes a bit into the history was and why they moved on at each point.
Where is there a link to the traffic distribution cap in here somewhere? I see this one. Oh, here we go. Is this it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I linked one part, but actually there is also part interesting.
Sure. Okay, I see.
I think there's a good question as to whether or not this should just be default behavior or like prefer closest.
So you mean like, yeah, well, actually, like the prefer close is kind of in a deprecating phase, because initially they introduced traffic distribution as prefer close, and now it seems that they want to deprecate prefer close and replace it by prefer same AZ to clarify what prefer close actually does. Yeah.
Right. I guess for prefer close to work in multi-cluster, we would need predefined like topology hierarchy.
Well, my proposal is essentially that we like sync the traffic distribution fields, and aside of that, we have some new fields that select group of clusters. So basically, we act on cluster property level, and whatever SIG network is doing should help us do the rest, hopefully, or possibly work with them to like improve the rest to do our things. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And yeah, there is, well, somewhat cool-ish things, because, for instance, if you have multiple cluster with the same AZ colliding, possibly you want to prefer the same AZ, possibly you don't care. I don't know. There is basically multi-cluster is super wide. You can have like literally 100 cluster across the world inside the cluster set. At
Right.
least that's the case for Cilium. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you have like initial 5-ish ways that you would, well, proposal. Well, we have feeling about each proposal like that I made, but I guess you would have to read more about like traffic distribution cape and all of that to know. But yeah, feel free to share. Oh, and there is Ryan also. Don't know. Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, my question is just quickly, because I don't think I saw it beforehand. The how do you get those properties, like either topology or region or whatever thing you want to build on top of that? Where do you get those from? That's the part I think I missed. Maybe
From, well, my,
where do you get those information? Like it has to be somewhere.
my proposal is to just pour about API/cluster properties, essentially.
About API, okay. So okay, cool. That's what I thought. So need to basically circle back to that about API property KP or whatever that proposal is, because we didn't finish that. Cool. Yeah, I will. Let's good. Then that's exactly I think what I thought about. Okay. So next week I'll clean up the proposal again and bring it back to the SIG to get that thing moving. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, for instance, if we were to go more in the proposal one route, which is like having a cluster traffic distribution with, for instance, saying prefer same region or something, we would necessarily have to like standardize every cluster property fields, because, well, I mean, we don't say explicitly which cluster properties it relies on. So
yeah, just quickly for that proposal. Now think of that, because all the voting stuff seems to be very complicated and not much headwind. There was a proposal from Stefan, I think, to just go with implementations. So I'm going to. That seems to be easier. It's a lot easier to implement, and so I will change that proposal to go that route. Just give you a heads up. Because the voting thing doesn't seem to go anywhere anytime soon. And yeah, the implementation vote by implementation itself seems to be pretty natural, because we have implementation. We're different from a little bit different from the cloud event that the model I followed. So we do have some implementation here. So probably that would work. Just give a heads up. And if anyone has any other suggestions, please comment on that, either Slack or something. I may just create a Slack just beforehand, before I change the whole thing to be like implementation based vote. Basically, we need a majority of implementers. We have a few implementers, so that's the route I'm thinking. Just heads up, yeah.
Just to add the context into the screen share, this is what Ryan is talking about, is this.
I think we can't, well, your screen share stopped.
Ah!
Well, it stopped like a minute ago or so.
Oh, okay. Well, here. I'm just gonna throw this in here. This is just so everybody knows what we're talking about. This pull request and this status right now from here. So we can come back to this if we need to. I do think Jeremy had a hand before me on the actual thing, and then I have a hand about the actual thing, or whatever the proposal. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I dropped mine.
Oh,
You're
okay. Yeah, so I think okay, yeah, one thing that what is this? think I have this open in another place. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm thinking about some other APIs, like DRA, that's using like cell to CEL to like define like how like aggregation should happen, which is like instead of this being like at same or like I guess this is implying that it would be the same as this cluster in these things
Yep.
in this. But yeah, okay. Just like it's another alternative of a way to like express things, but like obviously it has a lot more expressiveness than this. I don't know if that's necessarily what we want to fit this in, but I just think that's another API proposal we can put on the table for and some prior art. I'm not 100% sure that that like applies here, and then that makes it like very like we don't, it's even like basically instead of us, I guess, defining this in the context of this, it's kind of closer to even this, but more expressive because it's not just about operator and values. It's like a inline expression. So yeah, that was the initial thought.
Because I haven't looked at admin network policy and all of that, and I
Yeah.
guess it's recent and maybe I should check, but I think it's the same-ish thing. But yeah, but basically my initial reaction to what you just say is that sounds powerful. I just don't know if we want it to be the baseline of like entering a set expression when you just want a simple thing.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just kind of bringing that up as like an alternative while we're in the many APIs phase. And then we can kind of think about it and discuss if that's valuable or if it's like too much. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, once we kind of get our act together on at least what we think, maybe it doesn't need to be like too developed, but I do think we need to go, I think you maybe implied this already early, Arthur, but we should go to SIG Network and talk about how we're thinking about this and connect some dots there.
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing if we do, we should find out if we would like to approach it by a proxy native implementation or not. Because so I was proposing to essentially add some annotation to endpoint slice, and technically it could, like kubeproxy could be aware of those annotation and like play around it, even if you don't have like the full cluster selector or whatever we end up with. But well, to do that, there will need to be volunteer, and it probably isn't me because, well, I'm working on Cilium and we don't use kubeproxy, so
yeah,
I can help, but
I'm kind of wary of that just because even in like base MCS, like there was like a time too where we were talking about that for MCS, and like between like the like focus on like third-party implementations that implement it and like even things like making endpoint slices like optional because of like observing that being like the ability that implementations can have. I don't know that that is like really a direction that we would want to like hard block on because we chose to not hard block on that for base MCS. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, also initially you wanted to have a service import implementation. I'm only talking about adding to the possibly like traffic distribution algorithm kubeproxy with the annotation, like not even reading.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe it's a lighter thing, but it might be that it's too much complexity or anything. And but yeah, I mean, I mean, if there is no one to volunteer for it, it would not be happening anyway. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, litigating exactly on that, we don't need to finalize now, but yeah, totally understood. Okay. Any other thoughts right now? Sounds like we'll take this at least partially offline.
Yeah. If it's the end of this conversation today, you have the doc, please like read it and comment it. And well, again, I'm not assuming that it would be a short-term thing, so we have time to finalize it. However, please like comment if you have time to do it. It would help moving forward. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Nothing has appeared on the agenda since then. Does anybody have any other topics that they wanted to bring up today? Or would you like to spend the next 30 minutes reading Arthur's proposal, which is your homework? Going once. Going twice. All right. I guess that's it. Jeremy, you want to say anything
Yeah.
else in your last 4 seconds?
Well, yeah, I have to drop now anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yep, I know. Works for you.
I guess we'll give everybody some time back today.
Okay,
Thanks
cool.
all.
Thanks, everybody. Take it easy.
Thanks. See you around.